Good day, everybody. Welcome back to Divulgence. Today I have author and researcher Donnie Gebert here with me today. Donnie, how are you, my friend? Thanks for
Hello,
being
sir.
here.
Thank you for having me.
So we're essentially going to dive into your book, which is called A Direct Republic, The Null Hypothesis of Politics, How to Automate a Legislature. So best thing I would love for you to help me. Can you tell me what your book's about and give me some of the highlights about that to help get this conversation going? Because this is quite an interesting uh, topic. You kind of broke it down for me a little bit. So, yeah, this is interesting stuff. So, you have the floor, my friend.
It's a free PDF on my website. It's free at Barnes & Noble. It's 99 cents on Amazon because they charge a minimum. So, okay. Thanks for having me. There's lots of ways to describe it, but I think the easiest and simplest way to do it is everyone's heard of a constitutional republic and everyone's heard of a direct democracy. Have you heard of a constitutional democracy and have you heard of a direct republic? This is the most elementary way I know how to break it down. So when you take a blockchain and you throw it at a legislature, it does stick and it's called a direct republic. That's the far end of the conversation. Well, what method would we use to accomplish this? The answer is a blockchain. But the near end of it is, what is a direct democracy? What is a constitutional republic? What is a constitutional democracy? And what is a direct republic? That's the 8th grade civics lesson of the conversation.
So, I mean, me being a Canadian, I would definitely, and I mean, I'm sure other people would benefit from you. Can you just break that down? What the differences are between the direct?
Well, this is where the attorneys start, right? Because as of this point, we have 4 words on the table. We have direct, we have democracy, we have constitutional, and we have republic. Those are the only 4 words that we have to evaluate. So this is where we have to make sure we define terms up front. Direct, that is you, the end. Anybody tries to change, oh, yes, they will. Don't worry, they're going to try to sell you a representative as if you need one of those. So you don't want someone else voting for you. You want to do it directly. Okay, fine. Democracy. This is voting. We could kind of get into the philosophy of democracy where it is your social agency. But when we boil it down, it's just a method. It's voting. One person, one vote. If I start selling democracy in a different way, I'm full of shit. So the good news is direct democracy, everybody kind of knows how that works. And we don't have to get too far into it. Those 2 terms are now defined. Constitutional. Lots of places have a constitution. It is content driven. We don't have, China has a constitution. Who cares? We understand we're talking about the American Constitution in this case. What is a republic? And that is basically the crux of the book is we don't live in a constitutional republic. How can I say that? We have 2 layers of voting. The first is to get a representative, and the second is where the representatives vote again. So I don't understand what the word republic would mean if it's inherently a double-layered democracy. If you split representation out of that, okay, now we're all 330 million of us, we're all now clickable technology. We can now go to Congress. What is it? Now it's a direct democracy. How does this happen? What is the content of a republic when you remove the representative and it's now a democracy? Congratulations. So when I sat down and did this, the real answer is this is all a big fat show. But it's been going on for so long, we don't know who to blame. So there's kind of nobody. Okay. We live in a constitutional democracy, and a republic is best described as a coliseum where we go, kind of like a legislature, but in the coliseum, there's 10 doorways out. We have 10 presentations this evening. If you want vote 1, go out door 1. If you want to vote 2, you go out door 2. And you have to then be part of those social things. There's no voting per se. You are going to go and be part of that social thing, and it will be contained unto itself. One of the things that Congress does is it declares, like a deity, it shall legislate upon us all. Who has the right to legislate? No one. Who has the right to tax? No one. If you really study these two concepts, who has the right to legislate and tax? The answer is nobody. So when all of this gets put together, it is put together to where your agency disappears, or you don't know where the budget comes from, because it's not like you're part of the group that does that. We're all just arguing over these points from a distance. Everyone's been invited, so all of the amateurs immediately spend most of the time hogging the microphone, screaming about the ignorant nonsense instead of getting down to how the stuff really works. And then somehow we're going to have a popularity contest, send 500 people to Washington, and the popularity contest will make them competent enough to deal with all of it. No. This is just control. It's just control of a big printing press, and it's always been that way. We're just finding out about it now. That's all. So the real two problems we're dealing, three problems we can boil it down to, is taxation, legislation, and currency creation. Nobody has the right to tax. Nobody has the right to legislate, but somebody has the ability to create currency. And all of everything revolves around these three topics, really. Because if you're going to accept that the legislation is going to be the policy, this is all real authoritarian shit. And we're kind of at this weird point in human history where we're standing between the divine right of kings and sovereign AI. Just throwing words at the fucking problem, man.
Yeah.
Blockchain super helpful. AI super helpful. Attorneys and the divine right of kings not fucking helpful.
And sorry, what is a blockchain?
A blockchain is a file system, a distributed public open source ledger. Okay, you've heard of Bitcoin.
Of what? Sorry,
Bitcoin.
Bitcoin, yes, of course, yes.
Bitcoin is a blockchain. So Bitcoin was the first blockchain. Okay. So I give Bitcoin all the credit I can, but then there's an entire cult of people that start talking Bitcoin up like it does all of these things, and it doesn't. So there's a whole bunch of technicals that go with how currency functions and stuff like that. My thesis here for an automated legislature is pretty easy. It's all public anyway. So the idea that this shouldn't be an open source distributed ledger for all of these things, anybody who argues against that is arguing for fraud. Like, hey, let's just put a bunch of blind places in here where we can hide some fraud. The second argument is against self-representation, which is an argument you cannot make. Because the minute you start making an argument at all, you are arguing. That is you. You cannot argue against representing yourself in the anti-self-representation argument. No, you can't. You will be in the middle of a performative contradiction. So when you get down to the brass tacks, what's the real reason we don't represent ourselves in the political process? And the answer is so they can install fraud and keep it there. That's the real answer. And all the rest of it is a bunch of academics pretending they knew how to read as well as their attorneys, and they don't. Okay. Affirmatively, if you don't read as well as an attorney, you are, and the term is technically illiterate. You technically don't know how to use those words properly.
Right.
So it's like 51-49. I forgive all the illiterates. You're 49% illiterate, but they took the justice system and turned it into a pinball machine. So like everybody's forgiven for what these people have done. So you take out the vending machine, you take out the pinball machine, you put in a vending machine. anybody who's paying attention, they know that blockchain is the vending machine model. It's kind of like a digital vending machine. It's a little more complex than that, but there's lots of ways to accurately describe it. So the blockchain is the way we fix this problem because it's a vending machine. So the justice system still has that. The reason I'm good at this is because I was an infantryman and an intelligence guy.
You were?
Yeah. So because
really?
I know what rules of engagement are. I also know that statutes provide the rules of engagement for every cop in their bailiwick.
Okay.
So when a cop is not as competent as a paralegal, they will charge people with crimes that they think they understand, and they don't. And the vast majority of cops are supposed to be like big brothers in the neighborhood, and they're not supposed to be out there sniffing for bullshit. And they've been out there. They don't know, but I don't care that they don't know. It's their fucking job to know. So I will blame an infantryman and I will blame a cop right to their face. I don't give a shit that they don't know their ROE. So a lot of this is training on behalf, but everybody's forgiven. Up until 2009, nobody knew. It's such multi-tiered 5th generation fucking warfare. I could go on for 2 hours. I have probably 3 to 5 hours of podcasts just dedicated to trying to follow the chain of events that caused this shit. It really goes back to 1971, but you can't look at 1971 without looking at the Federal Reserve Act. You can't look at the Federal Reserve Act without finding Smedley Butler going war is a racket. So I focus somewhere on military history and military science and not philosophy. But the thing is, a blockchain performs a philosophy called the direct republic.
Okay.
So that's kind of where the overlap comes in of when you on the right hand side you could put methods, and on the left hand side you put ethics, and between method and ethic you get moral. That's the overlap in the middle. So when I say it's a moral discussion, it's really more about methods. Everybody thinks that they could virtue signal their ethics. That does not provide a good secure method to perform something. And I just stick to the methods, and lo and behold, when you're looking for a method to perform something and you are intentionally ruling things out because they cause bad problems, you'll end up with you can't compromise. Everyone says compromise is the answer. Fuck that. I'd rather have 10 different options that are distinct and I could blame them for what they are instead of trying to mold all 10 of them to one and then say this is good enough. Okay. That's how you destroy intent. It's better to have 10 groups of people who are each content with the 10 things that they're doing than try to tell them they all have to be Republicans or Democrats, and then we all have to work out of the same bucket of funds.
Interesting. Okay. Keep going. You're blowing my mind here, but I'm keeping up.
So So listen, the fundamental thing that you could be certain of is think about it like this. If they just gave the Democrats their bucket of money and the Republicans their bucket of money, we wouldn't be fighting like this, would we? Nope. So why don't they? Because they don't want to tell you where money comes from. So this is all just a huge pageant. Donald Trump was a pageant queen before he owned the Miss America pageant. So when I say what you're seeing is a bunch of pageantry, this system never, ever worked like we were told. It was a command and control economy that came right out of the black budget. And the black budget is part of the foundational economy of America that no one is told about. And it's very healthy because they print 100 million years every year because they print approximately 100 million jobs into existence. Between state and federal jobs, they are paying for like 100 million people to survive. Ish, give or take. So every year they print up another 100 million years. And then they just distribute that to the people who need it for a year. If you think about it like that. And that is why we have philosophical debates about methods, because when you do not have to account for your budget, you could come up with a whole bunch of fairy tale bullshit. And because you managed to pay for it, what is the argument that it doesn't work? if we're going to pay to give people transgender surgeries to make them happy, does it make them happy, or does it mutilate them and cause them to kill themselves on a much shorter timeline? Oh, nobody wants to talk about the bad outcomes from the magical printing press. When you can magically afford something, that doesn't make it a good idea. So basically, my thesis is that everybody in Washington, D.C. has been working in a budgetless manner for so long that they can no longer rationalize their methods because they don't even know. All they know is that they've got enough money to pay a bunch of people to do something. Fundamentally, that's it. They don't have a budget. They have a plan. And then they're going to print the rest of it into existence. The end. Then they're going to tell everybody every story in the world. September 10th, 2001, Donald Rumsfeld goes on TV and says the Pentagon is missing $2.3 trillion. I am here to tell everyone that is unequivocally false. That is incorrect. You cannot be missing $1 trillion anything and claim you have accounting standards. Fuck him. He could have made up 10 trillion. It wouldn't have mattered. What ledger was he looking at that says, oh, we're short 2.3 children? Was it written in crayon? No. I want an adult. I want to hear an academic use fucking grammar to describe the accounting standards where you can go missing 1,000 billions. Only an academic could find the grammar to call those accounting standards. They're not accounting standards, period. What year did we find out there was a black budget? Is not the year it began. It began before they shot JFK.
Right. Yeah.
Okay.
When did they disclose the black budget?
It was after September 11th.
Okay.
So when I say we're past the omnibus bill was like 97, 98, you know what I mean?
Right. Okay.
So we're so far past checkpoints where any adult was supposed to really put the real numbers out there. The answer is nobody even knows the real numbers and nobody cares. Like they're going to print and then they're going to tell the public something. That's it. And that's it. Everything else is kind of incumbent upon us to figure it out. And without blockchains, we're never going to figure it out. But those are here now. Those have been some blockchains have been running. Bitcoin's been running for 16 years. All of the decent ones have been running for more than 10. So when I say these records are getting cleaned up, they need to be cleaned up because criminals are running them.
Yeah, you got that right, man.
They're criminals. Well, they're not going to just quit. They know what they do. They know they print money for a living. And then there's just this big chain of events that's way behind them. And that's us. It's like a breakaway civilization. They print and do whatever the hell they want. We have to get out of bed and figure out our own lives. And, you know, it's the concept of a breakaway civilization. Well, the internet is kind of causing everybody to catch up because you can only break away so far before we're all stuck on the same planet.
And what is a breakaway civilization? How is that defined?
A lot of the woo-woo people like to say a breakaway civilization, that there's people around who are here who have UFOs, that all kinds of fanciful gear. I've been watching the gear come around since the 90s. I've been paying attention to all of it, all the way into AI. Most of what's on TV is hype and nonsense and lies. Most of it. It's sensationalism for the purpose of content and shilling ads. It's not really foundational. Get to the bottom of it, educate everybody. They don't want everybody educated. They want education classified and they don't want to share it.
Yeah.
They want to keep printing. Like, there's a small group of evil people at the top and they know what they're doing. And then there's there's a big chain of people who go, I don't know what to do except take the paycheck in the middle. And up until COVID, that's really understandable up until COVID. And then COVID just changed warfare. Fifth generation warfare. I would argue that it officially began when Nixon took us off the gold standard in 71.
Okay.
I would say that was the beginning. However, if we're going to go back that far for just fifth generation, so I cut off kinetic warfare at fourth generation. So some people are still kinetic fourth generation because they're trying to poison people. They're trying to poisoning people with vaccine. Some people will call it biological weapon. Not to get into it, it's the intent of harm. Someone is committing organized aggression in a way that they could hide behind their attorney. And that's kind of where this all loops back around to being in the legislature, because the wall of text that the attorneys are hiding behind is the legislation. The predators are hiding behind the attorneys. And until we get rid of the legislature, or at least the legislature is not a level playing field. So my goal is the first goal is to prevent a civil war on the North American landmass. Fuck that. That's a terrible idea. The second is to level the playing field, which basically turns everyone into a senator. And it sounds really complicated. It's really not.
Right. I read that part of your book. Yeah. So
a Build-A-Bear legislature. It's not nearly as hard as people think. Statutes are modular, way more than they think. If you don't own a house, you don't need to learn anything about land law. If you do, you need to learn about deeds, period. You have to understand. Instead of calling them statutes or policies, think of them as industry best practices. If you don't know how to do these things, you might get defrauded and you might do it incorrectly. And all we really want when it comes to deeds is a way to transfer a deed from you to me. We don't want someone in the middle who says, I am the keeper of the deed, therefore I tax upon thee. Okay. Blockchain is super good for deeds because land doesn't move. Blockchain isn't super good for things that move, but land doesn't move. Haha.
Okay.
But anytime you try to cut the politicians out, there will be screaming.
Oh, for sure. Sure. Just going back real quick, what are your thoughts on a civil war, a new age civil war? I mean, and we hear that all the time in social media these days, especially lately over the past few years. We're hearing it since, especially even more since Trump has been back. But I mean, it seems between a little after when Trump got in the first time, it started, and then when Biden got in and the whole January 6th thing happened, that definitely stoked the flames. And yeah, you still hear it though. So what are your thoughts on that? The possibility of some sort of civil war?
I would say it's really small.
Yeah.
But there are multiple scenarios where it could get real stupid and out of hand, and nobody wants those except the lunatics who insist on printing. Like, at the end of the day, human synergy works better than fraud upon us all. When you step back far enough, we are all stuck on the same planet. So several activities should be done synergistically, because there's no point. It just causes problems. It quite literally just causes friction between humans to do it a different way. And then there's not supposed to be so much friction where we're all shoehorned into the same process. I would state that, like, what is the smallest amount of civil war you can have? We're doing it right now. You got to send National Guard to Chicago.
Right.
I'm
glad you said that. Yeah.
But that's fine. Like, when you got 330 million people, think of America, instead of 50 states or one federal jurisdiction, think of it as 3,000 counties. How many of the 3,000 counties are having this problem right now? Like 10? Okay, that's a super, super, super small portion. And some of the people that we're talking about that were intentionally trying to foment the problem, they're all in those 10. So it appears to me that the problem is a lot bigger on TV than it is in real life. But that's not to say it's stupidly small. Like, if you have to deploy the National Guard, you got a problem.
Well, yeah, exactly. Right. Yeah.
But so then we can listen. But then think about this. Whatever happened to posse comitatus, right? And if you're going to if you're going to deputize any military people to act as cops, what the fuck? This is just a fucking blessing ceremony. You know what I'm saying? If you're not going to have hard, fast principles, I'm not arguing against or for posse comitatus. I think this is a bunch of fucking bullshit. And when you really understand how it works, if I could be placed back on active duty because somebody says you are blessed, go sign that contract, and we'll sign you into HR. There are statutes that say I cannot go back in. Guess what? All of them are waiverable and stupid. Maybe a better example. When a cop comes up on a house and there's a guy sitting on the porch with a bloody axe handle and he's got a dead wife in the living room, the cop looks by like, Jesus, Jeff, you're having a rough night. All right, listen, man, I got to give you a warning for this, okay? I can't have you clubbing bitches to death with that oak.
That's right.
Absolutely not. That's, of course, ridiculous because nobody's going to get a warning for murder. So when you take every statute that you think you understand, if a cop has the leeway to cut you loose and send you home, it's not for public debate, and the cop shouldn't be wasting his fucking time. He is security. He is not there for security is the reason those things are supposed to be there. And all of the other reasons they were told not to be there or they're going to lose their job, that's nothing but COVID antics. They are told they have to do a lot of stupid things, just like COVID, and they don't. Just like everybody else during COVID, what did they do? They tap out. They do what they're told. So that goes back to like Milgram experiments and stuff. When you tell people what to do, will they do it? When you pay them to do something, will they ignore their moral or gut instinct and just do it for the pay? And yeah, turns out a lot of people are like that.
Yeah, a lot of fucked up people out there for sure.
Yep.
Immoral people. Yeah, you can find someone to do anything.
But listen, I boil a lot of this down to a training problem. Cops are not trained properly. If you had to become a certified paralegal before you went to the cop course, take a ballpark estimate, just in your own head. How much better would the policing get if the cops were required to become a paralegal? It's about 6 months. It's a couple of courses. Okay. If they had to do that as an academic requirement prior to attending the cop course, you'd see a bunch of them not show up. That would be one of the things. But it's hard. I'm just saying the quality has to go up, and you don't dress a cop up like a cop and then think he doesn't have rules of engagement. That's not correct. The tasks are not germanely different. Frankly, man, civilians should not be permitted to talk about the topic of politics. Politics is war by other means. If you civilians think you understand war, fine. Then you can enter the conversation, but don't tell me about your politics. Understand that this is war tactics and manipulation all the way into a fifth generation sense. Manipulation of currency, legislation, economics, and administration. They're fucking with everything. I'm sorry, not economics, psychological warfare.
Okay, yeah.
Psychological, administrative, statutory, and like monetary.
Can you just to go back real quick? Can you put, if you don't mind sharing,
sure.
Can you talk a little bit about your service, your rank, any?
I was first in the Army for 4 years. I was ammunition supply, so that's working with the ordnance and carting it all around, the placards, trucks and stuff like that. Department of Transportation kind of shit.
Okay,
lots of that when you're transporting ammunition.
And that was in the Army, sorry?
Yeah. And then I went to the National Guard and I was an infantryman. And I was in a cool National Guard unit, not like there's National Guard jokes about fat National Guard infantrymen. They're good jokes. They're funny. I didn't have a shit unit. I had a good unit. Then I went to the Navy as an electronics technician. And then I went back to the Army and I was intelligence.
Okay.
So I got around. Yeah. So I've been hanging out in the War Department between 1995 and 2015. And in 2020, they fired a bunch of people for refusing COVID. And that's
Okay.
how right, like that's how I know the place is really fucked up. NBC, nuclear biological chemical. Before that, it was ABC, atomic biological chemical. You would learn in that class the proper mask tolerances. A t-shirt was never a mask tolerance ever. It's not a biological. You giggle. The people in the military are supposed to know that. There is not supposed to be a chain of command in existence that looked at those masks and went, okay, this will do. They're all supposed to be smarter than that. I'm certain. It's the beautiful part about military science is if I can demonstrate it, it's not a fucking debate. Like, you don't have to negotiate with people. You can drop high explosives on them. That's not morals. That's I have enough aircraft or artillery tubes I could fire leaflets at them. And we fire the leaflets at them and find out that they don't know how to read. So then we fire the fucking artillery at them. We fire HE at them. Fuck them. They don't even know how to read. Well, that's just how you get it done. It's not morals. So we're not trying to say it should be this way, but this is the way it is. And according to Pete Hegseth, like 3 weeks ago, apparently the military doesn't know how to do PT or shave. So it might be getting worse. Like, never mind biological and never mind the NBC standards. They might not know how to read anymore.
Yeah.
So I don't know what the fuck is going on there, but I think a lot of the shit that's on TV is fake anyway.
In what regards?
It will either be, I try to stay away from the Illuminati kind of shit because some people don't understand it. The Illuminati people set up a mirror world. There's two, it's Lowe's and it's Home Depot, right? It's not that they're fundamentally different because you've been inside of them. They're fundamentally the same. Well, the Illuminati people set up a world that's full of traps. Maytricks, the Matrix. That simulation, a bunch of those Illuminati people, they know it's a simulation. They understand people have been culturally programmed. They get 10 steps ahead of them. They make them feel as if their participation isn't step one in their demise. And then they take them through that mirror world of you thought you knew, but you got tricked. And there's varying degrees of that. But they are permitted to hide behind their attorneys. And then we have slavers hiding behind their attorneys, which is just like, nobody wants slavers. No thinking adult is for slavery. Only the slavers are for slavery. And they're all hiding behind their attorneys.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, that's a classic move, right? Hide behind the attorney.
Well, that's the legislature. So, like we were talking beforehand, a lot of people have to go back to their friends. And if they have a friend that they think everything is about politics, maybe they want to go revisit and hang out with that friend because they weren't saying everything's about politics. They're stating the attorneys have used the legislature to stick their fingers and their tendrils into everything. It wasn't that everything is politics. It's that everything has been corrupted through the bureaucracy, and legislation comes down as holy writ, not, oh, this was a good idea. They're not industry best practices being handed down. It's the divine right of kings from someone. And when you break it up into a legislature, it doesn't become less the divine right of kings. It just becomes dumb. It's just dumb then.
So, okay. So yeah, I kind of cut you off with a few questions, but let's get back into the notion about making everyone a senator, or giving everyone that power to help make decisions and whatnot. Can you get into that a little bit?
Okay, well, right now the federal government is basically involved in a psyop, and they're spreading bad information. And by the time the information gets to a representative, it's all the information they're getting. And then we get what they get. And then there's all types of excuses as to why these people are somehow special. They'll get a press kit, they get a briefing, they get this. So it's really just a bunch of nonsense. Really just a bunch of nonsense. So when you remove the representatives and everyone has to show up, that doesn't mean anybody, it doesn't make me competent to vote on any old topic. Now I know that. I would be good to discuss a bunch of topics, but the real, there's like this megalomania that comes with your vote, where all of a sudden you become relevant. And the real answer is no. All of our votes were, that whole system was being manipulated outside of everyone's purview, and in every manner possible. The voting system has been manipulated everywhere. So when you get back to voting is really more of a popularity contest than it is an understanding. When you make everybody show up, the first thing you get is a huge drop off of people who don't care.
Right.
If everybody cared about one thing and they showed up for it, let's make that assumption. Everybody gives a fuck about one thing and they're going to show up for it. We would all not want to be in the same thing. We would not all want to be on the same committee in Congress anyway, because it's not all of that stuff that goes on up there isn't relevant to us anyway. I would be a defense guy. I don't give a fuck if there's a whole bunch of people who want to do something else. The environment, it's other people. Let them focus their time, their energy. They have an in-group. They have in-group standards. And they would have to know those standards. They'd have to be somewhat competent. And there's no competency for your vote. There's no test for that. So when you want to show up and do this, how does this work on a blockchain? The first thing you do is you volunteer to not commit crime. It doesn't sound like a big deal. And I know people can lie. Don't focus on the lies. When I create a statute that says thou shalt not kill, who the fuck am I? Is the real question. Who am I to dictate that you shall not kill? I'm not arguing for murder. I'm stating so if we all took a step back and said, what are we all in agreement on? We come down to like no murder, no slavery, no rape, no fraud. So the attorneys would know this is Title 18. If you go to the criminal statutes in the federal and just about every state, it's called Title 18. If you volunteer to not commit those acts, you're now no longer testifying on yourself ever.
What does that mean?
If you are innocent, you can't testify on yourself, which means you can help a cop. I'm one of the people who doesn't really want to talk to cops because anything I say can and will be held against me. If we all had the liberty of knowing that if this person, let's just assume the cops are dressed properly and trained properly, you want to be able to point out to them. You want to say, oh yeah, he went that way.
Right.
Well, the manner in which the cops behave now, you don't even want to talk to them. It is your best interest to not talk to them. And then fundamentally, it's in your best interest to try and escape. I don't mean run away. I mean, what does this fucking thing want? Why is it talking to me at all? Yeah. Because it doesn't have my best interests at heart. That's the fundamental culture that has to change. That has to change, period. Anyone who says otherwise, you don't know what an infantryman's world is, but I'm looking at it from the position of the cop. There ain't that many of them, and they ain't going to last that long. If anybody ever thinks it would ever come down to that, there ain't that many cops, and they ain't going to last that long. They're not nearly as good as they think they are. Remember, I was saying they needed more training. They don't just need more training on the administrative side. The administrative training up front prevents them from having tons of these interactions that I'm talking about. Give you an example. All of the speeding tickets are commercial. There's a bunch of people out there who have said that, but there's a difference between law and statute. Law is physics. Laws do not require enforcement. Laws will kill you. Humans do not violate laws. They die trying. The end. Statutes are what somebody wants you to think is the law. It's false. So now we got a statute enforcer. All of a sudden, it doesn't. As soon as you say it correctly, you realize this is just some fucking guy. It's like a hall monitor. The sign on the side of the road says 70 miles an hour. That sign is rated for 80,000 pounds. This is not a debate. Period. Full stop. Your 3,000 pound car is not within the scope. It's not commercial. Your car is not commercial. Therefore, you're not in the scope of the statute, nor is that traffic control device calibrated for your car. Period. End of discussion. Anyone who says otherwise is incorrect. Now, if you think what I just said is incorrect, you go look. Now, this is in America. You go look at on the federal highways. What do the federal DOT guys do? Federal Department of Transportation will pull over large commercial trucks and they man way stations. They don't harass local traffic. Every one of the states started a revenue generation device with accusing people of commercial infractions and then doing a process that looks like court. And then they use a records keeping process that looks like crime to keep administrative track and try to get money out of you is what they really do. It's because if anyone who thinks what I just said is incorrect, you go to Black's Law Dictionary, because Black's in America, Black's is the dictionary by which the definitions come from for the statutes.
Okay.
The word traffic, if you look that up, it means commerce. That's not a debate either. There's all kinds of people who think they understand shit. When someone is drinking alcohol and they go take their car down the road until they damage something, they haven't done anything wrong. Do I approve of this activity? No. I recognize it is not safe to take a 3,000 pound object and move it at speed while intoxicated. I get that. But when I say if the guy makes it all the way home and he doesn't hit anything, and this is what most people who have driven drunk got all the way home.
Right.
Very few of them had accidents. Some of them had another accident. They ran in with a cop, and a cop, under the claim that he's keeping everyone safe, he's not. He then accuses this person of operating. Again, so in some circumstances, the cop sees someone with a 3,000 pound object moving 70 miles an hour and goes, "Holy shit, that can't keep happening. Everyone around here, someone will get hurt."
Right.
But those signs on the side of the road, that is for the infrastructure. 80,000 pounds moving at 70 miles an hour will destroy a bridge. It will destroy the road surface. It will fuck some shit up. So those signs, those are traffic control devices. We go back to the word traffic. And any lawyer, let me just be clear. Lawyers and politicians are the worst cocksucking as lying as faggot as motherfuckers we got. Don't believe them when they tell you I am incorrect. You go look it up in Black's Law, and remember, when you defeat an attorney, they'll all tell you the same thing. That's just your opinion. It really does come down to the really does come down to the enforcement racket. But here's the thing: the public servants are not permitted to talk back. These people, public servants, talk to us like my chain of command in the military. That's unacceptable. That's unacceptable. Talk at your politicians and remind them that they have volunteered to put themselves second. And if that's not good enough for them, then fuck them. There's always the way they've been manipulating it down in America is they don't sign their oath of office. It doesn't matter whether they're elected or not. They go into the county, they sign up at HR, and they get their badge so that they can get into all the secure areas, and they go down to payroll and they sign in. And then when they have to sign, they might even go somewhere and put their hand up and sound all real interested. But then then they will not sign their oath of office. Therefore, they are not contractually bound to perform any of it. And now they're hiding behind their attorney again. It really is just this simple. It really is sleight of hand. It really does revolve around contract. And they are correct. They are correct. Like I said, there's no constitutionalist who ever signed the Constitution. So when I say the only way we are ever going to get rid of the manner in which these people perform fifth generation warfare via statute is to sign a social contract, the real question is, what the fuck do we have to sign? And the real answer is you volunteer to not. You don't volunteer. The statute places an affirmative duty. You will not. Not, I volunteer to abstain. And again, this all comes back from when state actors are willing to admit that you have the right to abstain, they know it's over. Almost everything that a state does is somewhat compulsory. And then if it's not compulsory, it comes right out of that printing press we were talking about before.
Right. Yes.
So if it's not compulsory, which is, I'm in the compulsory half of, I don't know why these public servants are speaking to us as if they are a chain of command, but I am certain we could 1776 the fuck out of them anytime we want. But that doesn't get rid of the problem. Many of these people would look at their system and say, these are bad servants. If we get rid of the servants and we get good ones, then this won't happen. No, the system has a bunch of holes in it that cannot be filled in with an honest candidate. All you do, if you get the honest guy, and honestly, the system is allergic to the honest, especially for cops. It's more dangerous for them.
Really? Yeah. Okay.
That they're all expected to kind of fall into it's a bit like the military. The military,
right?
When you say certain things, like when the military has to fall into ranks, when you got to fall into line, it's not about moral shit. Like if you understand it in a World War II context, it's fire and maneuver. We must move together as a unit or we will be picked off piecemeal. They will murder us systemically. Therefore, we must move together. Okay. When it comes to legislation, it doesn't work like that. It doesn't work like that at all. So having the discussion where some of us abstain, that is the withdrawal of consent. So when I say consent of the governed, it was if you didn't show up to the meeting, clearly you didn't care enough. The end.
Right.
That way we don't have someone claiming a representative showed up in my stead, spent money that somebody else printed up, and I was very glad about the outcome. What? Who are you people again?
Crux. So what are some of the other important aspects of your of your thesis of your your kind of proposed way of government?
Technically, this is beating AI to the punchline.
Okay.
When we discuss machine code versus statutory code, I understand, man, I'm not a coder. I understand the basic rules of code, basic rules. Then I understand what the legislature did. If we were to take the code that makes this device function and put it next to legislation shows up in crayon. It's so poorly put together that you could be certain that they either did it wrong on purpose or only a person who you would talk down to did it. They're so fucking stupid. You wouldn't respect them. You would tell them you should go home for your safety. You are so fucking stupid. What you have wrought upon us all with this legislation gives us good reason to hang you. And like I said, nobody knew until 2009. It really is this fucking stupid, man. They were hiding such bad shit in loopholes.
Okay.
Loopholes. Human organ harvesting, sex trafficking, slavery, either being hidden. This is where you have to not look at necessarily just America, or, you and I are America and Canada, not just North America. Then you start looking at statute in every nation state across the planet. Which ones permit slavery? Which ones permit organ harvesting? Israel and Ukraine. Oh, that's where the hot wars are. Oh, when you're a pedophile, where do you run to? You
Israel.
run to, so then there's what's real life. This is why I'm kind of upbeat about most things. I give the War Department shit because the War Department should be stopping the psychological warfare that's happening instead of letting it happen. However, there's 2 active wars right now, Ukraine and Gaza, and we are fundamentally not involved, but we are involved. I do understand the funding. I'm not for any of this. I do understand that the problem is 5th generation warfare, and AIPAC is a practitioner of 5th generation warfare. They economically attack U.S. legislators through greed and their own pocketbooks. They do other types of, I got honeypotted, so I understand what a honeypot is. All kinds of these fucking things. They do it. But AIPAC is a practitioner of 5th generation warfare. And I'm so far over who's, it's obvious that the Israeli lobby, I would refer to them as a hostile force. They're not using violence, but they are hiding behind their attorneys. Yes, they are.
Here we got a comment from the audience. Bach Precision. I was born in Saudi Arabia. They normalize domestic slavery via the kafala system. We had a lot of Filipino and Indonesian maids through it.
Right. Now, I focus on human organ harvesting and sex trafficking. I can prove that I am the staunchest individualist on earth. We should all be senators. Fuck that. I don't give a shit who thinks otherwise. I am number 1 in the individualist category. There are a lot of people who import maids and stuff like that, and they don't abuse them. So there's a lot of what you would call illegal immigration that isn't part of organ harvesting or sex trafficking. And to that part, I don't fucking care. But then there's somebody subsidizing people to come to North America that have no idea how to behave. Yes. Yeah. So when I say I'm for open immigration, it's hard to get to North America from not North America. That's kind of like a hero's journey. Somebody subsidizing a whole bunch of Eritreans to come here and supposedly integrate. No, that's a terrible plan. That is no military age males, families at a minimum.
So what, you kind of just got into it. So what's your thoughts on ICE, hitting taco stands and Home Depot and scanning people's faces on the street and, that intrusion and that kind of bit of roughness that's going on and what are your thoughts on that?
The job of collecting violent people has rules to it.
Yeah.
Then there's what cops are doing. When they're doing the first thing correctly, they're doing their job. When they're doing anything else, they're probably not doing their job. It's usually put on TV way worse than it is. About half of the stories end up getting debunked.
Oh, okay.
Like the one guy's a Nicaraguan gang member, so they send his ass back to Nicaragua, and suddenly he's an American citizen. They float as some left-wing group will try to champion this person's cause, and they put it all in the media backwards. These people were using wartime constructs from like 1789 to make excuses as to why certain people should be here. So when I say there's a lot of attorneys making arguments for clients that don't belong on the North American landmass organically. They will never give up. My personal solution, I don't like the death penalty anymore, and I don't like it because it causes a paradox. If I'm permitted to kill people because of what they did, why can't somebody else, killing the murderer? There's a bit of it's a conundrum. So that's why I like sticking them all on an island. But as a matter of military science, take all those people and dump them off with their own kind. They're all the same way. This is your community. Fuck you. You're not permitted near us. However, then I will say it out loud. The manner in which people commit fifth generation warfare, when they're good at it, it looks like an intergenerational family that commits Satanism, where they, like MK Ultra, they raise their kids MK Ultra, and some of the kids don't make it.
Right.
Those are the worst. Whether somebody wants to, whether you like it or not, those people are practicing religion. That is freedom of religion. So when I say we absolutely have to wipe out anyone who commits anything that looks like fifth generation warfare, we have to wipe that out. We can't live with it. Period. It's worse than open warfare. Well, let me ask you, would you have preferred our lives go back to somewhat sane and stable if we fought from 2020 to 2022 and there were 500 million people dead? But we're not all stupid as a species anymore. Or would you prefer to go the long way where we have to get gaslit into an education and these people are running a script on TV, dude. I chased a bunch of this shit down myself. I'm certain it's a script.
Yeah. I mean, what
have you heard of Sabrina Wallace?
Yeah.
She talks a lot about how your EKG is the human biofield, and how that frequency as a terrain. That is a military science. If you didn't hear what I said, frequency as a terrain. Just like walking across the crust of the earth, when you're walking across the earth, there are frequencies. You go way out in the middle of nowhere where there's no man-made signals, there is the Schumann resonance. Welcome to the frequency of earth. So that gets really complicated, and it doesn't have a lot to do with legislation. And she doesn't do any of the lawfare stuff for good reason, because when you get caught, what you really find out is a bunch of people have been keeping certain things about frequency quiet, and all of that's going to come out. It's already starting to come out, but when you get to the far side of it, AI will defeat legislation as we understand it. It's kind of as I'm describing it, because machine code is better than statutory code, and it doesn't lie like an attorney. There's no divine right of kings. So that's kind of a short answer about how do you get a modular Build-A-Bear type legal system.
Okay.
And honestly, we have to sign a social contract, because if we don't, the Constitution doesn't count. The Constitution is precedent. It is not the contract. I hate to say it that way, because I'm big about the Constitution, but it doesn't cover all things, and it doesn't have its flaws. It does have its flaws.
So what are your thoughts on amending, changing some of these documents, or maybe even writing a new document? What are your thoughts on that?
Here's why I say it has to be done new, because it literally, without exaggeration, it has to be done line by line. I agree to not murder, or I will not murder. Check, sign. I will not rape. Check, sign. I will not. And all that whole document might only have 100 words, like 100 different words, and every one of them has a singular definition. The word murder. Sure, you could write a whole book on it to get into the difference between manslaughter and first-degree murder. Yeah. But when you say, I will not commit murder, and there's a link there, and you could click that, and you could go then look into the entire list of these are the types of murder. Don't do this. It's kind, you're being a little pedantic, but it doesn't come from the divine right of kings. It doesn't come from a legislature. It comes from your agreeing to it. It's kind of the beginning. And that's all you do. You get an identification that says, I am permitted on the floor of the legislature. That's it. It doesn't mean you know how to do this. The next layer of it would be done by Andrew Napolitano, somebody that you understand who knows a lot of this. Like because it's a piece of software, I haven't sat down to write it. And AI will figure it out way faster than me.
Right.
I'm certain. So I'm really the understanding is taking our agency back by making it stop, which means we're going to abstain. Can you imagine 5 years where nobody voted for anything because we refused?
Right.
What happens then?
That's
exactly. When there is no politician who can get in front of a camera and say anything because we didn't approve of him to be there. Fuck you, servant. You're out. We don't want none of this. Then what happens next? And the real answer is somebody has to admit where dollars come from. You could say Elon goes to Washington and he finds the 14 machines and we're going to make them accountable now. Oh, there was only 14, huh? Because I was born at 5 a.m. this morning. There on all the earth, there are 14 machines that produce dollars into the economy. I'm just that dumb. There's not 15. There's not 140. Elon found them all. Fuck out of here. Get the fuck out of here.
How about the separation of church and state? What are your thoughts on that? I mean, because it's supposed to be. I mean, it's pretty black and white. I mean, I don't know how you can interpret it different than what it is, but I mean, it seems that politicians love to include church with state as a way of virtue signaling and pandering to voters and stuff like that, right?
Right.
They're
manipulating their constituency, full stop. They are manipulating those people. They are trying to remain popular. They are not discussing it like an adult. So when I say I'm all about getting rid of every politician and attorney on this planet, if you the entire concept of statutory construction, you could write a couple of books on it. But when you boil it down, it's supposed to be civil society. If a 15-year-old can't figure it out, maybe it's a little too overbearing. Maybe your liberty is gone if you can't explain it to a 15-year-old. And the answer is we are still living. I am all about blaming no one until 2009. To not be a hypocrite, because that's when the first blockchain came around. So okay. If you were in the military and you were killing people your whole fucking tour for wherever you were, they were bad people and you were just doing your shit, whatever. Nobody on earth knew how to make intercontinental fraud stop until 2009. If you could commit fraud overseas, we could end up sending tanks over there just like Norman Schwarzkopf. So this is so many lies, so much manipulation. I don't care who thinks they know shit. Until 2009, we were just at war. The end. As a species, draw the line where you think it draws. Use the nation state map. I don't give a shit. We were at war. If you didn't accept that and you didn't understand that, go back and look again. We've been at war with each other since long before all of us were born, trying to make the welfare warfare state stop. Really couldn't happen until 2009. We'll talk about that some other day. No, until 2017, which is when I did my first video on this, I didn't know. So I can't blame anyone else until just a few short years ago. Then I went and checked with a guy. His name's Bob Murphy at Mises University. And when he was reading stuff, he stopped. He got all serious for a second. And there is no inherent tether to a statute to any geography. The statutes of Texas would travel just fine to Norway, Pennsylvania, South America, Africa. You could take that same codex, you could use it anywhere. There's nothing that keeps it that way. Well, that means we could vote for the state whose statutes we wanted the most for ourselves and our property. And while it fucks a map up pretty hard, it really fucks over all the politicians and all the attorneys and all the people hiding behind them. Way, 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 way worse. Way worse. Their control system is gone. Or I don't argue against organization. I argue against control. Blockchain does not provide control. It's a decentralized methodology that it's a level playing field. So when I say we use that to remove all the representatives and we represent ourselves, that is everything about the way these people have run the state. They classified real education. They never give you the education it takes to overthrow them. They never give that one out.
Yeah, man, for sure.
So when I came up with this, it was if I decided to commit regime change, I was in the American military. I was a military intelligence guy. How would I cross a border and commit regime change? What forces do I need in my pocket to do this? And if I'm going to use a couple of blockchains, that's it. I need Tokyo Rose to advertise these blockchains about how to withdraw your consent and how to take your assets and move them onto a ledger that cannot be taken away from you like a bank. And then you're done. And the real issue here is blockchains remove bank. When we get into the currency issue, blockchain is devastating to banking and currency and finances because there's a bunch of fraud that goes on between the money printing, between US government debt, and how Wall Street functions. Blockchains are so devastating to all of that. I'm not even talking about that. Like those arguments are over. Those systems were so fraudulent that as soon as you put them on a blockchain, every economics goes away. Like I said, this is how AI would defeat a bunch of attorneys. Economics is not a thing. It would better be described as the theory of Metcalfe's law. But because economics, I don't know of any schools of economics that do not require usury as a foundational tenet. They require a printing press. They basically require no ledger. The dollar doesn't have a ledger. We don't know the total money supply for the dollar. We don't know that because of the black budget. So
right.
we don't have a ledger. We do have a supply with an unknown quantity, which is basically an infinite supply. And we do not have a unit of measure. The distance between 0 and $1 is not scientific unit of measure. It's not a kilowatt hour. It's not an ounce. It cannot be assayed correctly. Period. And then if you are unwilling, and those are the only three things I brought up. The fourth part is now we have to have some sort of sovereign debt issuer at an interest rate. So if I really wanted to get technical, there's four reasons that economics is just this wide open argument. I understand why this happened. Like you could not track. I'm not saying Mises was wrong. I'm saying if you try to run any of these theories with an infinite pile of gold, you still find out somebody's fraudulent. Because of that infinite money supply. Where are they getting the infinite pile of gold from? The whole purpose of a backed currency is to have a black budget. Period. The whole purpose of a backed currency is to separate the actual thing you believe in from the printing press that is going to make people show up with an excuse like, oh, we're missing 1,000 billions around here somewhere.
Yeah,
so,
man.
And I will be even more clear and pejorative. There is not one fucking ape on the face of this planet with any credentialing that could properly argue for a backed currency. No, they couldn't. It's 100%. The entire concept is based on sleight of hand. It's not based on anything else. And if anyone who says otherwise, they could not produce any system that didn't have a bottomless budget, or I'm sorry, a bottomless printing press, a ledger that you could point back to and say, these are the only ones in existence. We're certain none were counterfeited. With the dollar, we are certain there was counterfeiting. It's called the black budget. We're certain. We're certain. There are assholes out there who will tell you Bitcoin is the beautifulest coin for criminals. Fuck you. The United States dollar is the beautifulest coin for criminals, and there isn't an adult who knows better that's going to put up with any of these fucking arguments from these people. Like to get in front of a camera. They like to sound like they know what they're doing. They repeat the same fucking dogma we've heard for 60 years. That's how you could be certain it's wrong. Nothing hasn't remained honest in the last 60 years. Nothing.
Any specific points you want to highlight before we start wrapping it up? It's a huge topic, so we'd have to bring you back to kind of dissect some of the different ideas sometime if you'd like to come back. But yeah, if you can maybe
pick something that you're most interested in, like
man.
Right next, whatever you're interested in, because it doesn't really matter to me. Like this is like this is a full 40-hour conversation when you track it.
Right. Yeah,
it really is. When you track it and nail down every single one of these things, like if you're going to draw the whole thing on a huge whiteboard, it's a 40-hour conversation. But that's not that much. That's pretty simple for being able to open up a Build-A-Bear store.
Mm-hmm.
40 hours of education, you can open up your own Build-A-Bear because you understand the supply chains, you understand the assembly, you understand the basic function of operation. That's it. 8th grade civics ain't that hard, but we were intentionally taught backwards.
That's helpful.
The representation is kind of like the priest in a church.
I'm sorry, can you repeat that?
The representation is like a priest in a church. You cannot go onto the holiest of holies. So this is really just a reformation of, no, I don't need a representative. I could go into the holiest of holies myself. All of a sudden you find out, oh, holy shit, they're going to print money. And then you just really find the really nasty people, like slavers, man. Slavers and organ harvesters. I don't have to church that up.
Yeah, no, fair enough.
No, but back to you. Like, what is your current rabbit hole?
Jeez, I mean, in relation to your book?
No.
Or
no. The shit you were doing last week, whatever you were finding curious.
Oh, okay. So, just stuff in the news, or sorry, current events and stuff.
Okay.
I mean, the shutdowns supposed to start ending over there with you guys. What's your thought? I mean, that kind of goes in with your book. What's your thought on the government shutdowns?
If they're there's a black budget. There's a black budget, but there's not enough money for the homeless. There's only enough money for wars. There's not enough money for the typists and the clerks.
Right.
This is a show, man. This is all stage drama. Here's the only way. Okay. Now I will go against myself. One of the reasons were maybe Elon, maybe there really were only 14 machines in Washington printing money. Maybe he did get them all because suddenly the government's shutting down, and apparently it's staying that way this time. Apparently there's a bunch of people who aren't coming back to work. Okay. Like at a certain point, we just have to understand if somebody's going to print the federal government into existence. Okay. We're debasing the monetary system to provide a government budget. Why? Why don't we have a budget? Why is there such non-restraint that the idea that a black budget will just cover everything? Why? All of a sudden, we got a 50-year mortgage. What a dumb fucking idea.
Right. Yes. Yes. Yeah.
Right. So when I say they're trying to sell, as far as I'm concerned, that was to gaslight everyone into a revolt. As far as I'm concerned, 20 more years of interest so that we can pretend that currency debasement, that we should use a debasable currency so that then we could denominate debt in that currency and then run like a hamster on a fucking treadmill to have a house, and it'll only take us 50 fucking years. Really? Really? Man, that sounds like way worse than it. That sounds like revolution territory for the young kids. Like under no, like murdering bankers and politicians level of we ain't fucking doing this, and I don't blame them. That, as far as I'm concerned, the 50-year mortgage was gaslighting everyone.
Yeah, it's just, I mean, some of these people, they just don't. I think, like, if you're going to get into politics and you're going to get that high up, like it's, the presidency, Congress, or senators to an extent, and, people working with the president and the White House, whatever, you've got to be corrupt, man. Like, you've got to, I don't know whether you get corrupted along the way or whether you just get into it because that's how it's going to be and you're just maybe a shitty person. But yeah, I mean, and then it's even worse when these people are rich and just making all of this money off of their positions, especially when most of the time they're not supposed to. They just lose touch of reality. They lose touch with the people, and I mean, they lose touch with the value of a dollar, so to speak. I mean, Trump and his ridiculous lawsuits for millions of dollars. I see he's going to he might sue BBC for $1 billion. Like, he's not that he'll win and get that money, but just the thought, like, oh yeah, $1 billion, give me $1 billion. That'll do. Right. So,
right. Yes. Everything is stupid because a printing press has set the value on human time and human life. And you'd be surprised how cheap humans are.
Yeah.
And the delusions that people will, honestly, it's all foundational stuff. We grew up. I was there for the 80s. One of the recent podcasts I did was on fiat weapons. In 1971, we can be certain in 1971 that Nixon officially placed the dollar off of what you and I would call Earth. There is no thermodynamic drag coefficient between 0 and 1 in a dollar because it's no longer backed by gold. No, the petrodollar did not nail the dollar down to a certain amount of oil. No, it didn't. It created a choke point where if you wanted your society to become modernized, you would need oil, therefore you would need dollars. It was a global currency racket. It's a global currency maneuver. It's not the dollars trade network and all of the payment rails that trade dollars around. That is a good thing. The dollar itself, the more we use it, the dumber things will get. Because it comes from nowhere. And if people are going to print stupid shit into existence and pay other people to do it,
right,
then if somebody's paying you $5 to $10,000 a month, even if it was only $5,000 a month, you're doing that 40 hours a week. Very few people will turn down 40 hours a week, $5,000 a month. I wouldn't. At which point, I can't blame anybody for being part of the problem, but I do know that the solution is to not participate with American politics anymore and wean us. When things change rapidly is when it hurts the most. So you kind of want to be able to see what's coming, plan ahead, and smooth that over. And everything I've been watching for the last 2 years, it's kind of good. The lies and the propaganda and the psyop, that's gotten worse and worse. But the underlying fundamentals of things, they seem to be kind of getting better.
Oh, that's good.
I'm not worried about. Let me be upbeat. Right now, you can get about 5 kilowatt hours to $1. There will never be a reason that you cannot trade 1 kilowatt hour for $1. Therefore, I'm certain the dollar never goes to zero. It never has that Weimar moment where nope. It'll smooth out about 1 kilowatt hour because there is no one on the face of the earth at all who benefits by letting the dollar just die like a dead duck.
Right.
Nobody benefits. So when I say we can suffer 5x more currency devaluation in dollars and no disaster is on the far side, that's a kick in the nuts for all the dollar users. That's a huge kick in the nuts, but it's not an ultimate disaster. So I don't worry about a lot of this stuff. And I know, like I said, I've hoofed this out myself with my own feet, dude. I know a bunch of these people are lying. I know they're lying. So I don't worry too much about that because I've been at about the distance that the cameras appear to make us, we're about 5 feet apart on I've been that close. It's a fucking op. It's a show. It's scripted. All these people talking about 3i Atlas. Okay. There's a space rock.
I was going to ask you about that.
Okay. It's third eye at last. So there's these groups of people and they signal each other in the open. And it is the dumbest. It's like Pig Latin. It's the dumbest ciphers that you could imagine. And there's lots of them. But this is third eye at last.
Yeah.
And that's why. And if you want to know who the scumbag propagandists are, they're the ones talking about this. Because no, it hasn't changed trajectory. No,
right.
It hasn't changed speed. No, it hasn't done any of that in 100,000 fucking years. No, it hasn't. But every propagandist was told, just like you ever see the local newspaper, the local news stations and the collage that Conan O'Brien did of they're all doing the same talk in every one of the same news stations?
I've seen like maybe not that specific one, but I've seen stuff like that. Yeah. Where they do,
it's all a threat to our democracy where they start off with one local news station.
Oh, maybe I have seen that one.
And then they show 2, and then they show 4, and then they show 8. Right.
Okay. Yes.
Okay. Every single one of the dickheads talking about 3i Atlas, go look at all of their sponsors. It's all this propagandist bullshit. Noble Gold. You've heard of Noble Gold, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Go look at what are the quarterly profits of Noble Gold that they can afford all of these how much are they paying all these no names for?
Right.
And the correct answer is if you play the stupid game, you get sponsorship money. The end.
Yeah.
And then they all play the stupid game. And then they bring these dumbass guests on. I call it the central casting couch.
Yeah. Okay.
They all get well circulated. Oh, the goddamn remote viewers. They all have a story. Not one of them will show you how. Not one of them will sit down with Joe Rogan and just do a goddamn remote viewing. Not one. Right. Not one. So this is pure propagandist bullshit. The remote viewers are the new faith healer from back in the 80s. Real simple.
All right, my friend. Well, we're going to wrap it up. Thank you so much for your time. Can you let everyone know where to find you? Just repeat where they can find your book. Is there anything else that you'd like people to check out of yours?
The Null Hypothesis of Politics.com is where both of my books are. They're both free. Twitter. All of the links are up there. If you could see, look on the screen right now, all the links are up in the corner. There you go. Okay. Just that. But, I'm all about sovereignty and getting people off the system because it doesn't work. We're just all running circles now around dollars, and the dollar, like all of these things are just swirling the toilet. We just happen to be living in the time when they're swirling the toilet because how many frauds can you juggle at one time is the real question. That's all they're doing. Juggling
Yeah.
fraud.
Fair enough, man. Well, thanks again for coming on. I appreciate it. Thanks everyone in the audience, all the listeners, all the watchers. Also, it is Remembrance Day tomorrow here in Canada, so yeah, lest we forget, guys. So to you, Donnie, thank you very much for your service.
Get me out of trouble.
That's good, man. That's good. Well, you, I mean, I definitely appreciate that that kind of service. So props to you, man. Sounds like you definitely did your dues and probably have a lot of interesting stories. So I'd love to bring you back to talk about some of that stuff too as well. But anyways, the point is that yeah, I appreciate your service, and shout out to you and everyone else. Yeah, please on that note, please subscribe to the Divulgence podcast on YouTube. You can if you want to send me an email, you can get me at divulgencepod@gmail.com. I want to also thank all my new subscribers and viewers. I got a kind of little bit of an influx over the past 2 months. It's not huge numbers, but for me, you know, it's much appreciated. So thanks to you guys. I've been even getting some people reaching out to me asking to bring people on, so that's really great. So yeah, make sure to share with your friends and everything like that. Make sure to check out Donnie, his book, and yeah, hope everyone takes care, have a great Remembrance Day, and yeah, stay safe, guys.